As a salesperson, you think you can outgrind your biology, but you cannot.
Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, she blends a rigorous science with actionable strategies, and she's one of the best. She works with elite performers to build their mind and to build their fitness.
There's one particular attribute that is a through line attribute in those that are the most successful at what they do.
What's that attribute?
Neutrality. And from a health perspective, why does this matter? Because as high as you go, right at that peak, you're vulnerable. Right now, the world paints the picture of weight loss, fat loss, and humans chase novelty. But that's not the problem. Fat is a symptom in part by unhealthy muscle. I'm gonna drop a real bomb right now.
They love bombs.
Okay, we just published a paper that the stronger and more healthy your muscle mass is, the better.
All right, so doctor, first question everybody wants to know is, how did this all start for you? Like, you're like a little kid, you're like, I think I want to be a doctor one day focusing on skeletal muscles. Like, how did this all
Exactly, just
get
like
in your
that.
brain? Like, what happened?
Well, I graduated high school early.
Okay.
And I moved in with my godmother, who is a PhD in nutritional sciences.
Okay.
Kind of the OG.
On purpose, or you just kind of like wanted to get away from home, or okay,
Yeah.
you moved in with her to like learn that stuff? Or?
No, I actually moved in with her because I had time before going to college.
Okay.
And she lived on Kauai in Hawaii.
Oh, wow. So where did you grow up as a kid?
Chicago.
Oh, okay. So you're like, I got to get out of the car.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what's
It's
going
9
on.
degrees here
You're
in
like,
winter.
it's
Get me out of here.
negative
Exactly.
9.
That's exactly right.
I'm going to Kauai. That's
exactly
a completely different lifestyle change.
Sure is. And I'm really glad that happened because it changed the trajectory of my life.
Okay, so you get there and she's like eating differently than you. Like what happened there?
Just imagine a modern day hippie.
Okay.
And you go into her house and she's making bread and everything smells amazing and there's all these herbs and it's just this kind of magical wonderland while you're living on the island of Kauai. But what was so fascinating was that I had just come from Chicago, very city entrenched, and she was a practicing PhD in nutrition. And she was seeing patient after patient.
Okay.
They had cancer, they were sick, they had all of these things.
Okay.
But she was treating them with nutrition. And obviously they had their own physician.
Sure.
But she was using more natural means as a holistic type of treatment.
To help. And that just like caught you curious, or you're like,
I don't get curious. I get committed.
I like it. Commitment, 100%.
And that was it.
Okay.
And I never changed from that trajectory.
So you're like, hey, I want to learn this stuff. Where did you go to school after that? Where did you go to university?
I graduated in my undergraduate from the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, in human nutrition, vitamin, mineral metabolism.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
And I just happened to be in the class of a world-class protein researcher who is now my mentor to this day, 20 years later.
Oh, okay.
And his name is Dr. Donald Lehman, and he discovered this
do you think that was by chance, or do you think that was like divine intervention?
0% by chance.
I agree.
And 0% chance that by chance that my godmother is who in the space of functional medicine. Have you heard of functional medicine?
I've heard the term. By all means, I'm not an expert for sure.
So functional medicine is this root cause medicine.
Okay.
And when she started, there, I don't know, probably 4 people in it. And now it really is what we consider that more holistic.
So the root cause of disease, rather than just like the Band-Aid approach, like would be traditional medicine, which I think there's a lot of value in a lot of traditional medicine. I think that is changing as we find out, we do more research and we find out there's other things that maybe are better. And it just depends on what it is. Like, I'm definitely not a doctor. I'm not an expert like you. Okay. So you go to school, you become a doctor, you just like open up your own practice, and like, what did you do next?
Yeah. Well, I completed my undergraduate in human nutrition.
Okay.
And there was you lived in Missouri.
Yeah.
I lived in Illinois, and they have tornado warnings.
Yes, they do have tornadoes.
And I was in class and there was a tornado warning, and we were down in the bunkers for 2 hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I felt totally useless.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, I can do nothing other than talk to them about nutrition.
Okay.
And I made that decision to go to medical school at that time, at that moment.
You went to medical school. Did you get start your own practice after that? Go work for a practice? What did you do?
Then I went to fellowship.
Okay.
So I went to medical school and then I did 5 years of a residency and then a fellowship, 2 years of psychiatry, actually.
What caused you to go the psychiatry route?
I believed that the practice of psychiatry was how to make people the best version of themselves.
Like to get their mind
yes,
in the right versions where they, instead of, I know there's a lot more of this, but instead of being like a victim, like, hey, what do I need to do now? Like, how do I treat myself? How do I overcome this?
I was obsessed with how people use the tool of their mind to become better.
We're going to have a great conversation then. So going through that, like what were some things you learned that just fascinated you that most people would not learn? And remember, look, you're a salesperson, a coach, an entrepreneur watching this, listening to this right now. How does this apply to you? We're going to talk about how your health really applies to your mental focus and really your ability to communicate as well, because it's a really important subject. And that's why I wanted to bring the doctor on the show. So what are some things you learned from those classes about the mind and how the mind really is like is a tool that you can use to become great, or it can go the opposite way?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't even from the 2 years of practicing psychiatry and learning psychiatry.
Mm-hmm.
It was from the years, over a decade of seeing patients.
Okay.
And seeing all types of patients. And there is, we chatted about this on my show, actually.
Yes.
There are attributes,
mm-hmm.
but there's one particular attribute that is a through line attribute in those that are the most successful at what they do.
What's that attribute?
Neutrality.
Neutrality. Okay.
Totally different than what anyone would ever think.
Let's unpack that.
Okay.
How do you mean by neutrality?
Well, think about this.
Mm-hmm.
You are flying to Dallas. You're going to give a big talk. In your earlier career, when you were more of a rookie, you probably got really pumped up. Probably doing push-ups backstage, listening to loud music, and you were so amped. And then following that speech, as high as you went, as amped up as you went, is probably as low as you fell.
Like the crash. I could see that.
There's a name for it, the crash. That crash is totally predictable.
That makes sense.
And humans, especially early on in their sales career, are surprised by it. And surprised by each time it happens, as if it's not like tax day or Christmas. Yeah. It's coming. But the more skilled at managing these highs and lows you are, the more neutral you can become.
Okay, so you mean like managing your emotions, where you don't let your emotions overtake you? Because a lot of salespeople are not very good at that, because a lot of them they haven't learned yet the skills to get to that level. However, if something goes wrong that day, they just don't, the highest level salespeople don't let it affect them because they know how to manage their emotions. They're neutral. Okay, that makes more sense what you mean. They're more neutral, like they're even kill. We would call that even kill. Yeah. They're not up one week and down the next. Up one week, like emotionally, down the next. They're just kind of right in the middle. They're collective.
That is absolutely a great way to describe it. And from a health perspective, why does this matter?
Yeah.
Because as high as you go, right at that peak before you are doing the thing or making the next sale, you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable to your vices. It's kind of like this idea of dopamine and drive.
Sure.
You, at the peak, maybe you drink, you want to drink more. Maybe you like to buy cars. You're going to buy another car because you're chasing that high. But the same is following that big event, you are also vulnerable right at that low.
You start going down low after you've already achieved the high.
Exactly.
You start going back low.
You also go off any fitness plan and any diet plan. I deserve this. I'm too tired. I don't want to work out. And typically, it will take weeks, if not months, for people to regain that momentum. But here's the problem. With sales and work, you have to do the next right thing. It seems as if it's optional if you're going to skip your workout or eat that next right meal.
Yeah.
And, after, 15 plus years of seeing patients, the best of the best are able to have longevity in this space. And you will never go as high. You'll never go higher than your biology.
This is really interesting because a lot of people, this makes more sense because a lot of people are like, like Jeremy, like this is back in the day when I was a salesperson working for companies. You're like, you don't even seem like you care when you make all these sales. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm just I'd always say, I'm like just right here. I'm never up and I'm not down. I've never had it described that way. I always said, I'm just even kill, because that's right. You manage your emotions. So when anything goes bad, you're still here. Like you don't let it affect you, right? And anything goes good, you're not all the way up here either, because then you go all the way back down. You're just kind of right in the middle. It doesn't mean you're boring, but it means you're more, I think you come across more like an expert or like somebody that is not needy. You're more detached, if that makes sense.
But from a health perspective, think about what it does for your physiology. We talk a lot
So
about
true.
inflammation and or flight.
That's true.
You know that there's more than one stress response, and those that are neutral are
Mhm.
better at tend and befriend, which
Okay.
is another stress response, or the courage response, which is what is the next right action I have to take. They do not go into fight or flight. They might have a moment of feeling amped, but they go right into solutions.
Right back to like, I'm here, gotta do the job, whatever it is.
But all we are ever taught is you should reduce your stress. Stress is bad. It's fight or flight.
Okay. So you're just managing your nervous system, really.
You're managing.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, because I take care of patients,
Yeah.
I'm interested in you leveraging your nervous system to help control your physiology.
Hey guys, Jeremy Miner here. A lot of you guys keep asking me really good questions in the comments on how to sell more. So the easiest way to actually get a hold of me is to actually text me way faster. So 480-418-6755. So text me at 480-418-6755, because here's the deal. I started this sales training company to help you finally master sales and persuasion once and for all, which is I know what you want to do. So text me and then let's get back to the show.
Tell me a few things on how you do that. Let's say they're a salesperson. What would they need to do? Let's say they're working a lot of hours because their skill level is not as developed yet. They're learning. They're working 60 hours a week. How can they manage that where they're kind of even kill?
Well, there are a handful of tactics that someone could do.
Okay.
Number one is delayed gratification.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is flip a coin. Say you like Starbucks. Heads, you get to go to Starbucks that day. Tails, you don't.
Interesting. Okay. I've never heard of that.
And that would be annoying after the third day of doing it and you've missed Starbucks.
But it kind of makes you excited when you get the right coin.
It does. And it also
So it's like a little win.
And you're not going to like the next one then. And it makes you less attached to whether you get it or not, because eventually that friction becomes less annoying.
That's true. Yeah. Because you just become used to it.
You become used to it. It's delayed gratification. Or you put your favorite food that you love to eat, your cookies,
okay, sure, yeah,
right on your desk.
Yeah.
And you look at that every day for a week and you don't eat it.
Them. So you're controlling, you're in more control.
You are practicing, but not in the arena.
That's so good.
People think that in order to get better, you practice in the arena. You do have to get your reps. In addition to getting your reps, you practice the skills in a different way outside of the arena.
You're practicing emotional control with that, especially even with food, like sugar and stuff like that. If you can control eating habits, then a lot of times you can control other aspects of your life.
Two more before we move on.
There's so much. Go.
This one is you don't celebrate every win. Celebrate every fifth win.
I like that.
People would say, God, you're probably not that popular at a party. Well, okay, but at least I'm neutral. Just kidding.
I would say that you actually are probably the most popular. Do you know why? Because you're a mystery to people. And because they can't predict you. Human beings, we're story-making machines. Story-making machines based off patterns. So if you're always like emotional up here, you're always excited, they start to recognize that pattern, you're boring. When they can't predict what you're going to do, you become really mysterious and curious, like what's going on. I actually think you're probably the life of the party because you're different.
Well, I'm actually hilarious. So
you are pretty hilarious.
In that way, yes.
And what's the other one?
So the other one is, so we talked about delayed gratification. We talked about not celebrating every win.
Yeah.
And I would say we talked about modulating your nervous system in terms of not getting too amped. Purposeful intensity, meaning you turn it on, you press your foot to the gas at that moment, and then you switch it right back off.
That's so good.
You practice the level of intensity. It is on your terms.
You're in control.
But you practice it.
Yeah.
And that could be studying for 20 minutes, or when you're going to go to speak, like tomorrow, at that, and you probably have your own rituals or whatever it is. But right before you step out, you are so dialed in. But it's a different kind of dialed in than before. It is one where you are putting yourself absolutely in the driver's seat, where you are so conscious of that focused moment. As soon as it's over, you think recover.
Yeah. If you ask my videographer and my team, I come off the stage and it's, everybody's jumping up and down and I'm just even kill because it's just a thing I did. It's just, I'm just here to do this thing. Like, This is just the thing I'm doing. Like, it's not a big deal. I really like that. That was so well said.
One of my former patients and now a dear friend, Ben Newman? He's actually from Missouri.
Sounds familiar.
And, I called him. My first book, Forever Strong. It was a major ordeal.
Yeah.
To launch a book and have two little kids.
It did, yeah.
And a husband in residency.
Okay.
I mean, it's crazy. He's working 100 hours. And I was like, Ben, how do you do this? How do you do talk after talk, interview after interview? You fly all around. And I'm just going on and on and on. And so what he does is he is a professional coach for all these teams, NFL, whatever it is, all these professional teams. And it was kind of quiet on the other end of the line. And he's like, Gabrielle? Yeah, dude, I'm still here. It's just another Tuesday.
That actually relaxes you, though.
I was like, oh.
Makes it not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just another Tuesday.
It's the same thing in sales. Like, there's different things you do, like a connection question, like, yeah, and this, so you get into the conversation depending on what you say, like, yeah, and this, look, the first part of this call, it's pretty basic. It's really more for us to find out kind of, what you're doing now, let's say what you're doing now as far as like, your workout routine, like what you're eating, kind of the results you're getting from that compared to maybe where you're wanting those to be, to kind of see what that gap looks like. And then towards the end of the call, if you feel like, hey, this might be what you're looking for, we can talk about possible next steps. Would that help you? But notice how I downplay the call. First call is pretty basic. See, I'm downplaying it. Now, a lot of people will be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you downplaying it? Because Human Behavior 101, in a sales situation, typically when you're in a sales situation, what are most prospects used to? A salesperson making everything like a big deal, like always exaggerating things. Like, oh, this call is going to be amazing, right? Or, oh my gosh, you're going to save so much money. Well, that's not that much money. But if I'm like, yeah, you're not going to save that much. I mean, your companies might save $57, $50, $100 a month. I mean, for a company like yours, that's nothing. Are you kidding me? A penny saves, a penny earned. See, it's called mismatching. I'm purposely downplaying it so they make it a bigger deal in their mind. See what I mean? Same thing you're talking about.
Cool.
That's really good.
So it's a mirror image of medicine to sales.
There you go. It's all connected. Okay, so I want to talk about, so you have a new book. I wanted to talk about Forever Strong, but let's talk about your new book. What's your new book?
The new book is the Forever Strong Playbook.
Okay.
And I wrote the book that I wanted.
Okay, good.
It's how to move, how to think, how to recover, how to eat.
Is this the muscle-centric approach?
It is.
I wanted you to walk me through that because I was reading, but like, walk us through what is the muscle-centric approach and why is that so important for them to like hit their peak performance in sales and business and everything?
Well, first of all, as a salesperson, you cannot outpace your biology. And I said that before, that you think you can outgrind your biology, but you cannot. And in order to actually be the best salesperson, you must be cognitively strong and healthy and physically strong. Period. End of story. Right now, the world paints the picture of weight loss, fat loss. My friend, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And humans chase novelty. This diet, that diet, the lucky diet, the grapefruit diet, the cabbage soup diet. But as much as humans love chasing novelty, which I'm sure all your listeners can relate to, humans have an underlying biology where they eat towards a certain type of diet, believe it or not.
Really interesting.
Humans eat roughly 20% protein. And I'm going somewhere with this. So while you are chasing novelty to get your food and eating higher carbohydrates, your body, outside of your conscious control, will continue to consume to meet those protein requirements.
Okay, yeah.
Why does this matter? This matters because of your biological need. So your foundation biological need. And that becomes critical to understand because what you're really doing is your body is eating to help survive and build and maintain muscle. But one more layer is that over the last 50 years, we've all been focused on fat loss.
Yes.
Chasing fat loss. But that's not the problem. Fat is a symptom in part by unhealthy muscle.
Walk me through on that because I've never really heard anybody describe it that way. I think it's brilliant, by the way. Walk me through, like, you talk about like so many people are unhealthy because they have, you call it unhealthy muscles or lack of muscles. Like so many diseases are caused by a lack of muscle or an unhealthy muscle. Yes. First of all, what's an unhealthy muscle?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Do you like steak?
I actually love steak.
Oh, I was going to be like, oh man, what if he says no and he just eats salmon? I'm in trouble. Okay, then you will relate to this. Healthy muscle looks like a filet mignon.
Yeah.
Unhealthy muscle looks like a Wagyu steak.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I can relate. So you've got weak muscle so when it's unhealthy, does that mean it's like weak or it's just, it doesn't have the nutrition it needs?
All the
protein.
above.
It doesn't have the protein.
All the above.
Okay,
because muscle is twofold. It is your strength and power.
Yeah.
Your mobility. Everyone thinks about muscle like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're jacked and tan.
Yeah.
That's the obvious. Strong, healthy muscle is important. In addition, muscle as your metabolic unit, meaning your site for carbohydrate disposal, those cookies that you're eating, guess where it goes first? Muscle.
Muscles? Oh,
if you do not have enough muscle. So if you think about muscle as a suitcase.
Yeah.
Are you a heavy packer?
Yes.
Okay.
Not going to lie.
All right. So now we know. You are going on a trip for 4 days. You open up your suitcase and instead of packing for 4 days, you're like me and you pack for, I don't know, 24. You've got
pretty much,
5 pairs of shoes.
Because you never know what you're going to wear.
You never. Well, I have it all planned. I have it planned, but I change a lot.
Good.
I have it all planned. You're stuffing all this clothes into this suitcase that you know is not going to close.
Yeah.
And if your muscle is like this suitcase, you're putting those 14 pairs of shoes, they're all over the floor.
Yeah.
Muscle is the same. If you are overeating carbohydrates and you never unpack your suitcase, there's no way that you're going to be able to add more clothes to that suitcase.
That makes sense.
And all of that remains in the bloodstream.
This is probably the best explanation I have ever heard of just gaining more muscle.
My job is to be a good communicator.
100%.
And I'm gonna drop a real bomb right now.
Drop the bomb.
Okay.
They love bombs.
Okay. You ready for the bomb? We just published a paper in Sexual Medicine Review, which is a peer-reviewed journal, that the more healthy muscle mass, the stronger and more healthy your muscle mass is, the better your sexual function.
For men and women.
Yes. This paper was for men.
Okay. Tell us why.
Yes. Because all of these roots begin in skeletal muscle. And here is why. But first, I need to lay out the problem. 40% of men by the age of 40 will have erectile dysfunction.
And what causes that? What's the main cause?
Well, in part, vascular.
Weak muscle? Really?
Indirectly.
Okay.
When you think about muscle, we talked about power and strength. We talked about the metabolism component, but we didn't talk about the plumbing component. You use cardiovascular activity and resistance exercise because you want to increase vasodilation for all vessels. And your sexual function is dependent on your ability to vasodilate, which also...
Tell us what vasodilate means in case we didn't go to medical school.
It increases blood flow.
Yes, got it. That's what I thought you meant. I just want to make sure.
But the other part, so there's the increased blood flow part. There is, in order to have increased blood flow, you have to be able to have a healthy cardiovascular system. You get that through exercise.
Okay.
But also, when you have a good metabolism where your blood sugar isn't all over the place and your glucose isn't all over the place, then you have healthy muscle and you have healthy sexual function, because the control center, the command center, is your muscle.
True.
And it relates to all areas of health.
Okay.
Nearly all.
So would muscle also be part of like how long a male lasts in bed, for example?
That's a really good question.
What causes that?
Yeah. There's a number of causes. I would have to look back on that.
We'll look forward for that paper.
Yeah, but
I
think that is the one that is not related to muscle. You found the only part in the human body.
I'm trying to find out. Okay, so what other diseases, like, let's talk about like, cancer. So what does your muscle have to do anything with like cancer?
Do you know this answer, by the way?
I don't. I was actually doing research on your book, and I saw that it was like an overview, and it listed cancer as something, and that's literally what I want to ask you.
Okay. Well, there's many different types of cancers. When individuals are obese, which, by the way, I believe probably the major root cause of obesity is a mismatch between diet and muscle health.
Yes.
So muscle becomes deranged first. Your muscle gets unhealthy first, and then you start putting on weight.
And is it just because your muscle's unhealtzy because of what you're eating
and not how you're exercising? That's right.
Because I know a lot of people, like, I walk around the gym and I see a lot of people, like, they're just as much as me, but they don't seem like they're very muscular, even though they're lifting weights.
I would be okay with that. You know why? Because they're cleaning out their suitcase. They're emptying their suitcase, whether their body composition changes.
So they're just putting too much junk in there. So they're never like getting to where they want to be because they just keep filling the suitcase with too much junk.
And that's exactly right.
Makes sense.
There's only so far you can pack that suitcase.
So true.
But cancer, let's talk about cancer. Yeah. One major reason why people die of cancer is called cancer cachexia.
Okay.
And this is this highly metabolic state. Your metabolism is going so fast, and your ability to survive is based on how much muscle you have.
Really? So would you say, like, if somebody gets, you have cancer, should that person start going to the gym and try to start working out?
It is probably one of the most important things that they could do.
Wow.
But I want to take a step back.
Okay.
It is not an if that something will happen. It is a when.
It's just when, yeah. It's like death. There's no if, it's just when.
It's a when.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you must be prepared. And the way in which you can physically prepare, there is no better way than have more muscle. And, for the longest time, if you guys are out there in sales, you're like, what does this have to do with me being a good salesperson? It
has everything to do.
Everything to do with it.
I tell you, I see a lot of salespeople that, they're in the break room and they eat a big lunch, or they eat just like SHIT food all day, like snacks and stuff. And by, 2:00, they're just useless. From like 2 to 6, like it's over. So it's like they're only working half the day, if that. That's part of it.
And it's totally predictable. They're sleeping underneath.
Even if they go to the gym, I see that they eat crap food the rest, like at lunch and the rest of the day, and it's over. Like if I, like go in the office one time, there's a bunch of donuts. I threw them in the trash. I was like, guys, we're not going to eat donuts. Like, what do you, like, you just want to like not help people today? Because those donuts, that's what's going to do. If you want to eat a donut, do it on a Saturday.
I like that. I also like the idea that being healthy is a responsibility. I always talk about aging is inevitable, because it is.
Yeah.
But weakness is a choice.
Very true.
And so is strength. And I would say it's a responsibility. Before we get into exactly what people need to do, I just want to frame this up that people will say, I'm too busy to work out. I'm too busy to work out. So many sales to do. I have, kids at home. I don't have time. And can you imagine if you don't have time to work out? Can you imagine the time it takes when you're sick?
I guess you're just shortening your time you have with your kids, because you're going to die right there.
But also
That's really what you're doing. That's what you're choosing.
And being sick is very time consuming.
Exactly.
If
and
you
not
don't
feeling good is time consuming.
It's doctors,
it's
imaging, it's blood work.
Yeah.
You do not have time. If you do not think that you have time to work out and eat right, how the heck are you going to have time to be sick?
How much time do you feel like they need to go to the gym to like get a good solid workout? How many days of the week? How long each session?
This is why I wrote that playbook. It tells them exactly what to do, a protocol.
Okay.
Not a ton of noise, not a ton of distractions.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do to build and maintain healthy muscle. It could be, again, 3 to 4 days a week of resistance type exercise. They could do it with dumbbells.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be complicated to be effective. 10 to 12 reps.
Here's what I recommend. I'm a big believer in this, especially people who have a hard time with this, is like, get a personal trainer. You don't even have to pay a lot of gyms, like you don't have to get a personal trainer one-on-one. Like if you don't have the money yet, we'll learn how to sell more. Take our courses, probably learn how to sell more. So you don't have that problem. But you can even take like group classes where there's like 4, 6, 8, 12 people in there, but at least it keeps you accountable. So like you got a class at this time, you show up, you can't just sit there on your phone for 45 minutes looking at TikTok. You actually have to follow what everybody else does. Like that even helps me. Like I have group like HIIT, training, like CrossFit. That's why I like those classes like that, because like I put my phone down, I'm just working out. I'm not doing anything. I'm accountable. Like I have a hard time just walk around the gym by myself, just working out by myself, because I'm not an expert, right? That's again, like.
Well, I have a trainer.
Yes.
I work with my
and
trainer.
You're an expert. But the trainer keeps you accountable. And, especially if you're not an expert, like the doctor is here, you want to hire somebody that can like show you what to do. That's an expert. Such a big thing.
And I also like what you said. In addition, you don't need to go, if you cannot afford a trainer, there are a ton of free online resources.
That's true. Yeah.
You also don't need a ton of people. You need a few, and you need a few that are committed.
That is true. That is true. It's all about commitment. Okay, a couple some other questions here. Let's go back to the obesity levels. What are your thoughts about obesity levels in the United States? And this is important, so everybody listen to what she says. What are your thoughts about the obesity levels in the United States compared to other developed countries like in Europe or Latin America or Asia?
We have a disease of comfort is what we have. And if more than 70% of people are either overweight or obese, we have more resources than, most other countries. So again, I am quite frankly afraid.
Is that why you do what you do? To help in there?
Yeah. I have a responsibility to do it. And when this moment came around, aside from my passion for muscle and nutrition, is I had just finished my fellowship, and my fellowship was in geriatrics and nutritional sciences, which I, by the way, did not want to study geriatrics. Geriatrics, that's people over the age of 65. I was working at the nursing home on the weekends and rounding on patients that were end of life palliative care.
Okay.
And during the week, I would run a memory and aging clinic. That's part of the job responsibility as a fellow.
Yeah.
I did not want to do that.
Okay.
What I signed up for was nutrition. But in order for me to get to be able to study nutrition, I had to work as a physician. You have to get funding.
What did that teach you? What did that show you? What patterns did you see?
That life is precious and that people die with regrets of all the actions that they didn't take.
Yeah.
Not to mention the bad information that they cycle through to try to, quote, get healthy. And so I opened up, I finished my fellowship. I opened up TikTok. I'd never been on TikTok or whatever it was, Instagram.
Yeah.
And I saw so much misinformation that I couldn't not do something.
You have a moral obligation.
Yeah.
That's what the scriptures say. You got a moral obligation. He that doesn't selleth the corn, was it King Solomon? Curses upon them. So obesity levels, because it's interesting because, I was over in Europe a while ago for a month, and I love going over there every summer. And one thing you always notice, and, I'm talking more like Eastern Europe, and, I was in Poland, I was in Germany, France. People are not obese like they are here. It's a night and day difference. And it's crazy because as my kids were growing up and then they were like in T-ball and high school and stuff like that, this is even like, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I started noticing, like, wow, like half of the team is like way overweight. And these kids are like 8 years old, 10 years old. When I was a kid, you didn't have hardly anybody. Like maybe there was one kid that was a little bit overweight because he liked to eat sweets. But you didn't have half the team that was like out to here and could barely run. And I'm like, if they're that overweight as 10-year-old, what are they going to be like in 10 years or 20 years? Their lifespan, instead of, going to their mid 80s or 90s, is going to be drastically reduced. Like I've literally hardly met anyone that is, 150, 200 pounds overweight that are in their 70s and 80s. That just doesn't happen. I mean, I'm sure there's an outlier, but like, it's completely different when you go to Europe. Like you might see somebody that like looks like he drinks a lot of beer because he's got a little pot belly, but like you don't see somebody like being pushed around in a wheelchair because they're 600 pounds. So how can people like you help change that way of thinking? Because it's really a way of thinking, not just, because it's a choice. You don't have to eat that food. You don't have to put the ice cream in your mouth. How are you guys helping change the way people think about their health?
First, I can't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to get this mission of having healthier, more resilient humans is going to come from a movement. And it's going to come from a cultural shift. That is the only way.
Yeah.
I am only one person. I can educate, but I need everybody listening to buy in to what I'm selling.
I think it's a lot easier for you and other people like you to be able to do that than even politicians. Because, I'm a big fan of I'm not really into politics. I just like the Robert Kennedy guy. I like the Kennedy dynasty and some of the changes they're trying to do with health, getting dye out of cereal and just stuff like that pretty much every parent should want. But because of the division of politics in America, it's like, if this side says this is a bad thing, we're going to say this is a good thing. If these guys say this is a good thing, we're going to say it's a bad thing. It's like, that mindset, right? So I think coming from you, like your message, because you're not political about it, you're just here to save lives, is far easier for them to accept than like, the new administration's trying to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? So you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders.
Yeah. And I understand that we have to shift the way that we are thinking about health. And humans, they have these cognitive biases. Once we think something, that's kind of
we look for evidence
that's right.
on why we strengthen our position. We don't
right.
look at other things that counter that evidence. How does like this muscle, like the skeletal muscle, like having that muscle affect the clarity in the way you think? I want to dive into that.
When I was doing my fellowship in geriatrics and nutritional sciences, I was looking at body composition and brain function.
Okay.
And I imaged this woman's brain. She was in her mid-50s and she had yo-yo dieted her entire life. She was spending years losing the same 30 pounds. And her brain, when I imaged it, it looked like the beginning of an Alzheimer's brain.
Really?
It did.
In her 30s?
In her 50s.
Oh, in her 50s. Wow. Okay.
Still too young, still way too young.
Yeah.
And the reality is, and there's data to support, the wider the waistline, the lower the brain volume. So that's just one aspect.
Okay.
So I'm trying to now appeal to your emotion because everybody knows someone who has had Alzheimer's or
that is true.
Cognitive impairment
or something. Yeah.
But there's two other things. And that is, as you exercise, skeletal muscle is an organ system. It's an endocrine organ.
It's an organ, right?
It's an organ, which, just like the thyroid releases thyroid hormone. When you contract skeletal muscle, depending on the duration and intensity at which you train, meaning let's say you go for a run. My husband's really big into marathons these days. You release myokines. And these are these little peptide hormones released from skeletal muscle that affect the brain. And they stimulate the brain to release something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Doesn't matter what it's called.
And why is that important for them?
Neurogenesis. I'm getting there. It will allow them to have a healthier brain and one that is sharper.
So they're sharper. They're quick-witted. They're just faster. They're not stuck.
But it's dependent on their movement. The Alzheimer's piece, Alzheimer's is considered type 3 diabetes of the brain.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So there's the Alzheimer's piece, and then there's the improvement of cognitive function piece, which in part is dependent on movement because the brain, roughly 30 to 40% of the brain specializes in movement. In order to have a better brain.
So if you're not moving, a lot of salespeople are at a desk most of the day. They're either on the phone
or atrophy.
They're on
Your
Zoom.
brain gets smaller.
Maybe they drive to an office building or to a house. Unless they're door to door, they're not really walking all over the place. So this is even more important for them.
Americans eat about 11% saturated fat. That's what they eat.
Okay.
Our guidelines say 10%. But the reality is saturated fat, we make saturated fat in our body. If it's inherently dangerous, then we probably wouldn't make it. But one more thing. Eggs have saturated fat, roughly 18%, one egg. Do you believe an egg is healthy?
I thought it was.
It is.
Okay. I was like, I always eat eggs on
But an egg is healthy. But when they put the guidelines together, they were genius. Because by saying anything more than 10% saturated fat is unhealthy, it takes out all animal products.
Interesting.
So for cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, they took that out of the guidelines in 2015.
Okay.
Dietary cholesterol doesn't really impact blood level cholesterol. So they took it out of the guidelines.
Okay.
You go to the doctor and they say, well, you should not eat that. It's bad for your cholesterol. But
that's right. Your cholesterol's high.
They took it out of the guidelines. And then the other thing that I would say is if red meat caused cancer, the next logical question is, what's the mechanism of action? And how could it be that this one food is being painted to be as bad for you? It's the one thing that causes everything. How does that even work? And what's the mechanism of action? We developed eating this. We evolved eating meat. One more point. Our red meat consumption is down more than 30% from the 70s. But our obesity and our heart disease are higher.
Yeah, because it's all just the sugary stuff, right? The chips, all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
So for a salesperson watching here, like what are some foods like that? I mean, I think they know, you'd have to be an idiot to not understand. You probably want to avoid like a bunch of donuts and a bunch of like junk food because that's not going to help you, right? But what are some foods that maybe they're not aware of that they really should avoid to keep that mental clarity when they're in sales? I
think instead of thinking about what we should avoid, we should think about how they can design a diet for themselves because they will feel better if they get this right.
Let's do that.
At that first time that they do this, they will feel better. Okay. Let's just all do an experiment. The first meal of the day, when you have that, your breakfast, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 11, I don't care.
Okay.
But we are going to do between 30 to 55 grams of protein. There's tons of apps out there. If you don't know what that is,
protein shake?
It could be a protein shake. It could be yogurt. But the key is 30 to 55 grams. It could be 6 eggs. It could be design it, right? Like also, we have a protocol for free on my website, by the way.
Okay. We're going to send it to you here in just a second.
But I'd rather you guys look at the playbook because the playbook is designed to not have to count.
Okay.
So it's visual.
Yes.
But again,
salespeople who don't like to count.
Just trial and error. People don't like to count calories.
Sure. Yeah.
And they don't want one more thing that they have to do.
Yeah.
But if you can look at it and know you're doing the right thing,
yeah.
that's easy. The first meal of the day, the first thing that I want you to do for that first meal is have protein. Simple. Why? I'm just going to give them a little why. It will impact their willpower because we eat for those amino acids. I'm not going to get too technical, but those high quality proteins have amino acids that are good for the brain. And that person who is getting that 30 grams or more is going to be less likely, and they've looked at this under fMRI studies, so under MRI studies in the brain, much less likely to grab the donut or the cupcake.
Interesting. Okay.
Also, we balance their blood sugar. You could have 35 grams of carbs, but you don't want to go too high unless you're exercising. So just simply think of a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay, so you get the breakfast meal. What if they get hungry before lunch?
Do better at breakfast.
Okay, so you're saying don't have a snack between.
You can.
Could you eat like an apple? Like what could you supplement that?
I would not try to have a carbohydrate by itself.
Really?
Because it's going to spike your blood sugar.
Oh my gosh.
It's just
so
going to
much
have
to learn from you. What does that mean specifically?
Yes. When you eat too many carbs and too many calories, you do not unpack the suitcase of your muscle and you look like a Wagyu steak.
Okay, so you're putting too much junk in the trunk.
Exactly.
As salespeople, we have
junk
to,
in the trunk.
We have to give these analogies like don't put too much junk in the trunk.
The one thing that I would say is that muscle is your anti-aging organism. That's it. If you were talking about stem cells and all these various things, these things can be great.
So they're kind of supplementing the muscle. The muscle is the first thing, because if you take all the stem cell stuff, if you do all that stuff, but you don't have the muscle, it's not
right, because
really
muscle is your
much.
Foundation. It's your architecture.
So if you don't have the foundation, then all the other stuff doesn't really matter as much.
Your survivability is higher the more muscle mass you have.
Makes so much more sense.
When you do resistance training and you become strong, you have a lower risk of all-cause mortality. Anything that's going to kill you.
Wow.
So we can look at the next shiny object, but it's just a shiny object.
But you got to get the muscle first.
Yeah.
All right, go get the muscle. Doctor, where do they follow? Where can they learn more about what you do? Because I think this is an important subject. This is why I wanted you to bring you on the show today. So thank you for meeting me here. That a lot of salespeople just don't think about, and
they can't afford not to.
Exactly. It's the cost of inaction. It's way more expensive not to get the muscle and have all disease and all this stuff, and there's all these memories that you really want with your family and in life. So we're going to go to learn more about what you guys do.
Yeah. They can go to my website, drgabriellelyon.com. I have a medical podcast. Okay. It's a health and wellness podcast, the Dr. Gabrielle Lyon Show. I have my first book, which was a New York Times bestseller. We sold out of books.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah. And I bought your book today.
Forever Strong, thank you.
Been following you, looking to see what you got. I'm like, I think I know her. I think I've seen something on her before.
The new book is a book I'm really proud of, and that's the Forever Strong Playbook. And that comes out January 27th. And it's the first book of its kind. It has graphics and pictures and protocols, and it's not just a heavy, dense book, but it appeals to those that like to read and those that don't.
I mean, time is your biggest asset, but to get the time, your biggest asset is health. Because if you don't have health, you don't have the time. So make sure you go there right now. Doctor, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is a really thoughtful conversation. Really good.
Thank you.